roots. I'm doing my dreads. And so I have about 4 hours to kill because it takes that long to redo all my roots. So I was like, I'll tell some stories. I'm not going to have any kids unless the Supreme Court makes me have kids. I choose not to have kids, and I have no one to share these stories with. And if you can't share stories with your internet friends, who can you share them with? Really, right? And so I posted something on Instagram, and someone had asked about, like, they were talking about, like, the craziest times it's seen or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Hat change. So I lived in Chicago for 23 years now, right? And over that time, I've seen some, like, crazy, crazy things. I've seen the neighborhood I live in now, basically. So back when I first moved here 20-ish years ago, it was a really bad neighborhood. So I've seen, like, drive-bys, and there people have been murdered all around my place, and all kinds of crazy things have happened, right? Still not the craziest thing I've ever seen, though. The craziest thing I've ever seen in Chicago was, there was one day, my wife and I were walking just down the street going to a major intersection, right? There's like a major intersection here in Chicago where I live. And it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. So there's a lot of people outside, right? All of a sudden, there's a gas station that we're walking past, and I see this like truck kind of go, like take off, and I see these two men like just running, just take off running. And I was like, uh-oh, something's going down. I was like, but probably shouldn't stick around too close because you never know what's going to happen in Chicago. So as they're running down, all of a sudden, right, I see a bus coming down this major intersection, and I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on here? This bus comes and it stops at the major intersection. The truck goes, two guys jump out, and the two guys are running, start just beating the crap out of these two guys. They then drag the two guys into their truck. And mind you, this is happening in front of a CTA bus at in the middle of a major intersection. They grab the two guys, throw them in their truck, and take off. That is the craziest thing I think I've seen in Chicago. And I've seen police chases, I've seen all kinds of other things, but an abduction in the middle of daylight, in the middle of a major intersection, was probably the craziest thing I've ever seen in Chicago. So there is that story that I promised, I forget who it was now, that I would tell. It was a real abduction. I saw an abduction. Later on I found out that it had been like a deal that had gone bad or something, and someone ripped someone off. I don't know who the aggressor was in that position, but someone ripped someone off and they weren't having it, and so it got wild. It got wild.